Happy Devils Monday. This is the Woo Report. The Woo Report. Episode 332. The Morning Woo edition. I'm your host, Sam Woo, here live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios bunker before your morning commute, possibly afternoon commute, depending upon when you're listening to this podcast. Today's title is Things to Improve on This Offseason. There's a lot of things to improve on for this record-setting New Jersey Devils team. Number one, we'll talk about goaltending. Number two, we'll talk about the defense. Number three, we'll talk about the offense. All off-season long. Seeing some filing into the YouTube Live and Facebook Live. Happy Devils Monday to you. I hope your Mother's Day yesterday was good. It was a nice afternoon in New Jersey, sunny afternoon. The weather was great. I was just thinking, wow, what could have happened if Devils won Game 5 and 6? The feeling of going to Game 7 tonight. But it won't be the New Jersey Devils, but it will be the Seattle Kraken trying to advance over the Dallas Stars. That series going 7. Last night, the Edmonton Oilers knocked out of the playoffs. Surprise, surprise. Despite Leon Draisaitl going crazy in the series. And it all came down to goaltending. So that's where we're going to start, with the Devils goaltending. There are Devils fans that think Connor Hellebuyck from Winnipeg would need to be traded. 1 year left off of his contract. Would that be worth the big trade? Like what Tom Fitzgerald did with Timo Meier this past trade deadline. Now, it's been on record that I've said that the Devils didn't need Timo Meier, but that was under the assumption with the rumors that Dawson Mercer would have gone the other way to San Jose, plus first-round draft picks, plus a couple mid-tier prospects. I thought the price was too high to get Timo Meier. Turns out, Timo Meier was traded to the New Jersey Devils. The price was moderately expensive, but nothing that would break the bank. Sending Shakir Mohammadulin, Fabian Zetterlin, Andre Johnson, known on the Devils After Dark program, a conditional first-rounder, potentially for 2024. Was that worth it? Is it worth getting Connor Hellebuyck? The Devils would have to pay the price, but we have to look at all angles on this. To improve on goaltending, which I think the Devils need to do, but if you want to go all in, it all depends if Tom Fitzgerald wants to go all in for next season, which I don't think the Devils have that mindset like the New York Rangers. I think the Devils are in great position to find the right deal. Timo Meier will need to be re-signed in order to really get the better end of that trade deal. So far, he has not re-signed. We talked about Jack Hughes in his exit interview, saying that, you say you love it here, sign on the dotted line. I believe he was talking to Timo Meier, possibly Jesper Bratt, or both. But let's think about it here, about this goaltending. Akira Schmid, in my mind, is a 1A goaltender. And I think Vitek Vanacek, at best, is a 1B goaltender. Not a knock on either goaltender. But I thought that the goaltending out of Akira Schmid, a rookie goaltender, was pretty impressive this season. Consistent all along. Ran into problems, really, with the Carolina Hurricanes game 1 and 2, but could you really fault him on it? Came in game 4 in relief of Vitek Vanacek, as Vanacek started game 3 and then pulled in game 4. Game 5, I thought Akira Schmid showed us that he can play in high-pressure situations and perform well. The Devils had their chances in that game. They just did not finish. And I'm not just talking about Timo Meier's open net that he kind of shanked on. I'm talking there were many chances that the Devils could have put that game away behind Akira Schmid's stellar goaltending. It took an unfortunate penalty from Jonas Siegenthaler in overtime for the Carolina Hurricanes to seal the deal on that one. I think Akira Schmid has a future with the New Jersey Devils. And I don't think Tom Fitzgerald should make a trade to get Hellebuck with 1 year left on his contract unless the price is right. And I'm talking about basically not giving up too much. Because you could always find Hellebuck in free agency. And I think with the emergence of Akira Schmid, Vitek Vanacek having 2 more years left on his contract, Mackenzie Blackwood, an RFA, with Nico Dawes and Tyler Brennan in the system, and with his upcoming draft, I think Tom Fitzgerald should stand pat unless a deal comes to him. So I don't think there's that much desperation there. I think it's different from the Edmonton Oilers situation. And I think the Devils do have goaltending. It's just not now. Now, I want to point this out, that the 3 Vezina Trophy finalists for 2022-23 season, based on the regular season, are Sorokin, Hellebuck, and Allmark. All 3 goaltenders got bounced in the first round of this year's playoffs. So the notion that you need a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender like Martin Brodeur to win Stanley Cups is not exactly true. You can win the Stanley Cup behind a Kemper like last season or other lower tier goaltenders, but they play above average in the playoffs. You can win the Stanley Cup that way. And it boils down to, in my mind, the defense. The defense of the New Jersey Devils. This is going to be an interesting free agency because Ryan Graves, who has beef, but sometimes doesn't use that beef, and then we have Damon Severson, who sometimes the Devils fans have beef with some of his lackadaisical plays, which have gone fewer and fewer and fewer, are both unrestricted free agents. So what do the Devils do with their defense? Luke Hughes getting some experience, very limited sample size, but I thought he passed the test, the eye test, Luke Hughes. 2 regular season games and 3 playoff games. I thought Luke Hughes played pretty well. Obviously, the Devils had to weather the storm of some of his rookie mistakes, but that comes with the territory. Simon Nemec, at this stage of his development, doing very well. The pairing of Nemec and Luke Hughes in the future could replace Graves and Severson's departure by next preseason. It will help with the salary cap because Tom Fitzgerald's going to have to make some decisions here who he re-signs, for how much and how many years. And we'll get to the forwards in a minute, but the defense would look like Dougie Hamilton, Siegenthaler, John Marino, Kevin Ball, Simon Nemec, and Luke Hughes, with Brendan Smith still lurking. I agree with NY Davey. Riley Walsh is an interesting D prospect. I agree. Nikita Hoytuk obviously traded for Timo Meier. Also, Seamus Casey still in the system. Ethan Edwards still in the system as well. It should be interesting what the Devils do with their draft picks in 2023. We'll still have the draft party, even though the Devils don't have their first-round pick this season, which after last night's game has been solidified as the 26th overall that San Jose will be picking late in the round, because the Devils finished very well this season. So we shall see. N.Y. Davies said maybe integrate Seamus Casey onto the roster late next season. It all depends on his development at Michigan. I know Vinny Parisi alluded to that, you know, he's on the Luke Hughes plan. So we shall see what Tom Fitzgerald does with the defense. Now, Steve Engel, I believe, let's get to the forwards, to improve on the top 6 beef. So there are 2 high-profile restricted free agents that the Devils have to re-sign and would attempt to re-sign long-term, and that's Timo Meier and Jesper Bratt. Timo Meier needs to be re-signed, and I think he's more of a priority than Jesper Bratt for the very reason you gave up quite a bit to get him in that trade. His beef, his size, his physical abilities was needed in the playoffs, because the playoffs are a different animal. The goal here remember, is not to have a President's Trophy winning regular season. The goal here is to win the Stanley Cup. So this team needs to be built for the Stanley Cup. Now, veteran leadership, Andre Palat, I thought was good for this team in the playoffs. Look what he did for Mikey McLeod. I am telling you, that play, that extra 130% effort by Palat in Game 7 against the New York Rangers when the stakes were high, to get that pass off to Mikey McLeod. Michael McLeod, his confidence is at an all-time high because not only can he win face-offs, he's got physical size, he's got some decent speed with that size, but man, when he's confident, he was the best player of that series for the Devils against the Carolina Hurricanes. It's amazing what that did for Michael McLeod. It was almost like his coming out party as that first rounder when they drafted him in 2016. But getting back to the restricted free agents of Timo Meier and Jesper Bratt, I think Meier is a top priority over Bratt. Bratt had his chances to sign something, and you know what? There was a difference in tone in the exit interview, and I'm not going to get into real details here, but Timo Meier, you know, he wants to be here. Same with Eric Holla. And Jesper Bratt, I want to be here, but my agent will handle it in July. Let's get it done. I'm not so sure about Bratt. I like Bratt as a player. I think he's good for the team. But it's just a matter of how much. How many years? Is he willing to bet on himself? He had a great regular season, but non-existent at times during the playoffs. And that's what the Devils are going to have to evaluate, because it just seemed like sometimes they were physically overwhelmed by the opposition, which makes Timo Meier a hotter commodity because he was able to go toe-to-toe with some of the big boys of the other team. NY Davis said, we lack D guys like Brent Burns, someone physically intimidating, lots of experience, and can move the puck. That's defensively responsible. Yeah, too bad John Marino doesn't have that size. I thought Marino played extremely well during the playoffs, and he was shutting down the opposition. But you're right, it would be nice to have that one D guy, but you can make the case, an argument, that everybody wants that one D guy in the league. It's like the boy says, Kevin Ball ring any bells? Again, that's all depending upon Kevin Ball's development. I thought he improved greatly. He went from being on the outside to getting meaningful minutes for the Devils, both in the regular season down the stretch and into the playoffs. Corbin says Bratt just gets pushed off the puck way too easy. Great player, but has some weaknesses. Agreed. But players do improve. Just remember that. They do improve during the offseason. And it should be interesting what the Devils do, because they have a lot of contracts coming off the books. They have to re-sign both UFAs and RFAs, more RFAs than UFAs, but like I told you, the main RFA that I think the Devils need to focus on is Timo Meier. Because once that contract's signed, rest assured, the assets that you had to give up to get him makes the deal even sweeter. If Timo Meier does not sign a long-term deal and walks after next season, you can make the case that's a pretty expensive rental. But I think Timo Meier wants to be here. I think Nico Hischier is a great captain. Only 23 years old, going to be 24. Jack Hughes turning 22 on Sunday. And also Kira Schmid's birthday, I think, was Saturday as well. This is a young team. And I think bringing in the veteran leadership in Brendan Smith, Eric Holla, and Andre Palat, I think, was great for the New Jersey Devils. Now, there is a wish list that we talked about on the Sunday edition of the Let's Go Devils podcast. And one name mentioned, as you know, was Ross Colton of the Tampa Bay Lightning. A Jersey kid from Robbinsville, New Jersey. A New Jersey Devils fan. Went to the Princeton Day School. Picked in the fourth round, 118th overall in the 2016 NHL entry draft. Would be a great addition for this New Jersey Devils team, but I don't think the Lightning would give him up that easily. But there are other players out there the Devils could use. Michael Miranda says McLeod and Timo priorities. Corbin's talking about Max Domi. Peter Seifert wants some beef and some beefalytics on that first line. I'll tell you, Peter, it was the bottom six that got it done in the playoffs consistently. Could you imagine if the top six had some beef and had some room to operate, and then all four lines could have been effective, especially in that Carolina series. I thought Jack Hughes played extremely well. And it's only the beginning, folks. Even though the Devils had a record-breaking season, we still haven't seen their untapped potential. And that's the scary part about this team. And they just had a good, hard failure and a reality check against the Carolina Hurricanes. The way they lost, they went down with the ship, but they went down swinging, is a great thing. And we got to see a real-time sample size of what this young nucleus can do. First with Akira Schmid in goal, Jack Hughes showing his grit, coming back for that Game 5, which there was speculation that he wouldn't play. And those speculations turned out to be true, that even Lindy Ruff wasn't sure if he could give it a go. Remember Game Day Live when Jack Hughes was not warming up with the rest of the team, but on the ice during warm-ups? Timo Meier could barely breathe. Took a shoulder to the face with his face shield in the way. Broken nose. Coming back. As uncomfortable as that was. This team showed quite a bit of grit during the playoffs. Like John Marino in the end there. And this is my lasting memory of evaluating this New Jersey Devils team. Is John Marino out there, only a couple minutes removed from getting a puck to the face, all gauzed up, and with Siegenthaler in the penalty box, went out there to try to kill off that penalty against the Carolina Hurricanes. That showed grit and determination. Talk is cheap, but the Devils have that grit inside. We just need to see more of it. And I think right now, Tom Fitzgerald is in great position, salary cap-wise, to make those big changes. There will be players that be gone, like Tatar, or Miles Wood, or Ryan Graves, or Severson, is what N.Y. Davies saying. But they can all be upgraded. But I think the top six needs a little bit more beef, is what Peter Seifer was saying. The defense, if you can find a stopper with size, could it be Kevin Ball, or could you get one in free agency? Or would a true trade be in the works, like how the Devils got John Marino? Fleece Gerald may strike again. And with goaltending, Akira Schmid, is he the real deal? Will Nico Dawes and Tyler Brennan ever see time with the big club? What's going on with Mackenzie Blackwood? He had injuries he had to deal with all season. Vitek Vanacek still has 2 years left on his contract at a decent cap number. We shall see how Tom Fitzgerald handles this offseason. Well, want to thank all those tuning in here on the Morning Woo, on the Woo Report, episode 332. Dropping the podcast in about 20 minutes for your morning and afternoon commute. We'll have State of the Fan address this Wednesday. Nick Villano, pucksandpitchforks.com. We'll be back. And, we're going to enjoy this year's playoffs. I want Carolina to lose. I want Florida to just absolutely physically abuse them. But we shall see. But tonight, Seattle Kraken and Dallas Stars. That should be a good one, folks. That should be a good one. Hitting the button now. Keep it here at the Let's Go Devils podcast. There is no off-season. We're going to start planning our off-season coverage, possible events, possible pop-up podcasts. This is the Morning Woo on the Woo Report. Till next time, let's go Devils.